The sound of coffee brewing in my kitchen at 6 in the morning should have been comforting. Instead, it made my blood run cold. I hadn't made any coffee. I stood frozen in my cottage doorway watching my mother Sarah calmly pour herself a cup like she owned the place. My 6-year-old nephew Tommy raced past me down the hallway, shouting about claiming the biggest bedroom. Sarah turned toward me with that familiar manipulative smile and casually mentioned she'd had a key made months ago. Jessica's family would be moving in next weekend, she explained, because she'd already promised them the cottage. My secret dream purchase had become a family nightmare, and somehow I was the intruder in my own home. I stared at my mother in complete disbelief. What do you mean you had a key made? How did you even get inside? Sarah set down her coffee mug on my granite countertop like she belonged there. Oh, honey, Mrs. Patterson gave me a spare key months ago when I told her I was helping my son look at properties. Sweet old lady was so helpful. The words hit me like a physical blow. You've been coming here behind my back. Not behind your back, Atlas. I've been preparing for your sister's future. She gestured around the living room I'd spent countless evenings imagining my life in. Jessica needs this place more than you do. Tommy came barreling back down the hallway, his sneakers squeaking on my hardwood floors. Mom, can my bedroom be the one with the big window? I want to see the lake. My stomach dropped. Tommy, buddy, this isn't your new house. Yes, it is, he protested, his 6-year-old voice full of excitement. Grandma Sarah showed us all the rooms last Sunday. Dad said we're going to have barbecues in the backyard. I turned to my mother, fury building in my chest. You've been bringing them here. Sarah's expression didn't change. Every Sunday for the past 3 months. Jessica needed to plan where to put the children's furniture. She's been through such a difficult divorce, Atlas. The least you could do is share. The front door opened again and my sister Jessica walked in carrying cardboard boxes labeled Kitchen Fragile. Her face lit up when she saw me. Atlas. I didn't expect you here so early. Are you helping us move? She set the boxes down and hugged me tightly. I can't thank you enough for this. When Mom told me you wanted us to have the cottage, I cried for an hour. You're saving our lives. My throat closed up. Jessica genuinely believed I'd given them my house. Jess, there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Sarah interrupted smoothly. Atlas bought this place as a family investment. Didn't you, sweetheart? I stared at my mother's calculating eyes. Behind Jessica, I could see 4-year-old Emma drawing on my walls with crayons, while 18-month-old Luke toddled around pulling books off my shelves. Brad, Jessica's ex-husband, appeared in the doorway carrying a crib. Atlas, man, I don't know what to say. Brad's voice was thick with emotion. When Jess told me you bought this place for us, I couldn't believe it. Nobody's ever done anything this generous for our family. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. I already quit my teaching job so I could be home with the baby. And Brad sold our condo last week because we thought... Her voice broke. We thought we finally had a real home. I felt like I was drowning. You quit your job. The elementary school was so understanding when I explained about the family cottage, Jessica said, wiping her eyes. They even gave me a reference letter for when I'm ready to find something up here. The kids are already enrolled at Maplewood Elementary. Emma starts pre-K on Monday. My head was spinning. In the span of 10 minutes, I'd learned that my mother had been orchestrating an elaborate deception for months. My family had restructured their entire lives around a lie. Sarah moved closer to me, her voice dropping to that familiar guilt-inducing tone she'd perfected over the years. Atlas, you have that nice apartment in town. This big house would just go to waste with only one person rattling around in it. Family takes care of family. This is my dream home, I said quietly. I saved for 2 years working double shifts at the construction site. I gave up everything to buy this place. Dreams change, honey. Your sister has 3 children who need stability. Surely you're not going to put your own selfish wants above their needs. Jessica looked between us, confusion replacing her earlier joy. Mom? What's going on? I thought Atlas offered us the cottage. Before I could answer, Tommy ran back into the room. Uncle Atlas, look what I found. He held up my high school baseball trophy. Can I keep this in my room? Grandma Sarah said everything in the house comes with it. The room went silent except for Luke's babbling as he chewed on one of my throw pillows. I looked at my sister's hopeful face, at her children making themselves at home in my space, at my mother's expectant smirk. Jess, I started, but my phone rang. The caller ID showed Maplewood Elementary School. Mr. Atlas Morrison. This is Principal Chen from Maplewood Elementary. I wanted to personally thank you for your generosity in housing the Williams family. When your sister explained how you'd opened your family cottage to help her children have stability after the divorce, well, it just restored my faith in family bonds. Emma and Tommy are lovely children, and we're so pleased they'll be joining our school family on Monday. I hung up without responding. Jessica had enrolled my nephew and niece in school using my address. The weight of what my mother had orchestrated was becoming terrifyingly clear. The school thinks I donated my house to you, I said slowly. Jessica's face went pale. I listed your address because Mom said this was our new permanent home. What's happening here, Atlas? Please tell me what's happening. Sarah stepped between us. What's happening is that Atlas is having second thoughts about his generous offer. Sometimes people make promises they're not prepared to keep. I never made any promise. The words exploded out of me. Tommy started crying. Emma dropped her crayons and ran to Jessica's leg. Luke, sensing the tension, began wailing from his spot on the floor. Brad looked like he wanted to disappear entirely. Atlas? Jessica whispered, her voice breaking. Are you saying you didn't know we were coming here? The truth hung in the air between us like a bomb waiting to explode. I looked at my sister's devastated face, at her children's confusion, at my mother's satisfied expression. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting for my house. I was fighting for my life. The phone calls started before I even got back to my apartment that evening. First, my Uncle Robert. Atlas, your mother told me about the cottage situation. I have to say I'm impressed by your generosity toward Jessica and the kids. That's real family spirit right there. I sat down heavily on my couch. Uncle Robert, what exactly did my mother tell you? That you bought that beautiful place on Lake Morrison and decided to gift it to your sister as a divorce settlement? Sarah said you realized a single man doesn't need all that space when Jessica's got 3 little ones who need a stable home. Made me proud to be your uncle's son. After I hung up, the calls kept coming. Cousin Martha from Tennessee. My grandmother Helen. Family friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone congratulating me on my selfless gift to Jessica's family. By Thursday, Uncle Robert showed up at the cottage with a rented moving truck. I was there trying to figure out how to handle the situation when he pulled into my driveway. Thought I'd help the kids get settled, he called out cheerfully. Your mother said Jessica could use some muscle moving the heavy furniture. I watched in horror as Robert started unloading a dining room set from the truck. Uncle Robert, where did that furniture come from? Your grandmother Helen bought it special for Jessica's new place. Cost her almost $5,000, but she wanted the children to have nice things in their new home. Said it was worth it to see family helping family. My blood pressure spiked. Grandmother spent $5,000 on furniture for this house. Happiest I've seen her in years, talking about how proud she is of you for taking care of your sister. She's been telling everyone at church about your sacrifice. I pulled out my phone and called my grandmother immediately. Atlas, darling. Her voice was bright with joy. I was just telling Mrs. Patterson from next door about how wonderful you are, giving up your dream house so those precious babies have a home. Your grandfather would have been so proud. Grandma, I need to tell you something important. Oh, before I forget, I transferred the money to your mother to buy bedroom sets for the children. She said you were handling all the purchases to make it easier on Jessica, Such a thoughtful boy. After I hung up, I sat in my truck outside the cottage watching Uncle Robert carry my grandmother's expensive furniture into my house. My phone buzzed with a text from my boss, Marcus. Your mother called the office today. Said you might need some personal time to help your sister get settled in her new place. Family emergencies happen, but let me know if this affects your project deadlines. I called Marcus immediately. What exactly did my mother tell you? She said you'd made a generous family arrangement and might be distracted helping your sister move. Sounded like you're dealing with a lot of family responsibility. Everything okay? When I got home, there was an envelope waiting on my doorstep. Inside were printed copies of Facebook posts my mother had made tagging me in each one. So proud of my son Atlas for opening his heart and home to his sister Jessica and her beautiful children. The cottage on Lake Morrison will be perfect for their fresh start. Family is everything. Watching Atlas help Jessica move into the family cottage today? 3 generations working together to give these precious grandchildren the stability they deserve? Blessed to have a son who understands that family comes first. Atlas's generosity toward his sister and her children during this difficult time shows the kind of man he's become. Each post had dozens of likes and comments from relatives and family friends I barely remembered, all praising my generosity and sacrifice. People I'd gone to high school with were sharing the posts, talking about what an inspiration I was. My phone rang again. This time it was Father Williams from St. Michael's, the church where Jessica had been taking the kids. Atlas, I had to call and personally thank you for your Christ-like generosity toward your sister's family. In 30 years of ministry, I've rarely seen such selfless love in action. Jessica tells me the children will have their own bedrooms and a yard to play in. What a blessing you've given them. Father Williams, I think there's been some confusion. Your mother explained how you secretly purchased the cottage and surprised Jessica with it after her divorce finalized. She said you didn't want any recognition, but I believe good deeds should be celebrated. Would you consider letting me share your story during Sunday service? Our congregation could use inspiration about family loyalty. After that call, I drove back to the cottage. Jessica's car was in the driveway along with a contractor's truck. I found my sister inside with 2 men measuring the walls of what used to be my home office. Atlas, perfect timing. Jessica's voice was excited. I'm having the office converted into a proper nursery for Luke. The contractor says they can knock out that interior wall to make it bigger and add a window. Won't that be perfect? One of the contractors approached me with a clipboard. You're the homeowner, I'll need your signature on the work order. Your sister said you're covering all the renovation costs. This expansion will run about $8,000 with the electrical work. I stared at the papers. Someone had already filled out my name and address as the responsible party. I didn't authorize any renovations, I said quietly. Jessica's face fell. But Mom said you wanted to make the house perfect for us. She already gave me your credit card number to put down the deposit. She gave you my credit card number, the Visa ending in 4736. She said you kept it in your kitchen drawer at the old apartment and told her to use it for house expenses. Jessica's voice was getting smaller. Atlas, what's wrong? Why do you look like that? I pulled out my wallet, my credit card was missing. The contractor cleared his throat awkwardly. Look, folks, I need to know who's paying for this work before my crew starts tomorrow morning. We've already ordered the materials. That evening, I checked my credit card statement online. $8,000 charged to Morrison Home Improvements. $1,500 at Pottery Barn Kids. $900 at Home Depot. All charges from the past week, all while my card sat in my wallet. Or so I thought. I called the credit card company immediately. Mr. Morrison. Yes, we show several large purchases this week. The card was used in person with PIN verification each time. Is there a problem? Those weren't my purchases. I see. We'll start a fraud investigation, but the PIN usage suggests the card was used by someone with authorized access. Do you share your PIN with any family members? I hung up and sat in my dark apartment staring at my laptop screen. My mother had my PIN number because she'd helped me set up the card when I turned 18. She'd kept that information for 14 years waiting for an opportunity to use it. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Atlas, I'm so sorry about the credit card confusion. Mom said she was just trying to help. The kids are so excited about their new rooms. Please don't be upset with us. Attached was a photo of Tommy and Emma in sleeping bags on the floor of my master bedroom, grinning at the camera. Behind them, I could see their toys scattered across my hardwood floors and their drawings taped to my walls. I was losing my house, my savings, and my sanity one manipulation at a time. Friday morning brought a letter from First National Bank that made my hands shake. Someone had attempted to refinance my mortgage using my social security number and employment information. The application was denied due to insufficient income verification, but the attempt had triggered a credit inquiry that was now on my permanent record. I called the bank immediately. Mr. Morrison, we show a refinancing application submitted online Wednesday evening using your personal information. The applicant claimed they needed to consolidate family medical debt. Do you recall submitting this application? Absolutely not. This is identity theft. We'll file a fraud report. However, the application included scanned copies of your birth certificate, social security card, and recent pay stubs. That level of documentation typically indicates someone with authorized access to your personal documents. My stomach dropped. All those documents were in my filing cabinet at the apartment. I'd given my mother emergency access years ago when she helped me organize my taxes after college. She still had a key to my old place. I drove straight to my apartment building. Mrs. Chen from the management office met me in the lobby. Atlas, your mother was just here yesterday picking up mail. Such a nice lady. She mentioned you were moving back home temporarily to help with a family situation. Moving back home? She said you'd given up the cottage to your sister and needed to return to apartment 312 while you looked for something smaller. I told her we'd held on to your lease since you never officially terminated it. She seemed so relieved that you'd have a place to stay during the transition. I went upstairs to my old apartment, which I'd kept as storage space after buying the cottage. The filing cabinet was open, my important documents scattered across the desk. But it was what I found in the trash that really terrified me, my truck title torn into pieces. I spent an hour taping the title back together with trembling hands. Then I checked Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. There it was, my 2018 Ford F-150, listed for $15,000, with photos taken in my driveway. Family truck for sale. Owner relocating and downsizing, excellent condition, low miles. Contact Sarah for details. My mother was selling my truck. I called the number in the listing immediately. Morrison Residence, this is Sarah. What the hell do you think you're doing? Atlas, honey, I was wondering when you'd call. I've had 3 serious inquiries about the truck already. One gentleman wants to see it tomorrow morning. You can't sell my truck. Sweetheart, you're going to need the money to help Jessica with moving expenses and renovations. She's spending so much on getting the cottage ready for the children. The least you can do is contribute. I'm calling the police. And tell them that your mother is trying to help you liquidate assets to support your sister's family. Atlas, you gave Jessica that house. Everyone knows it. Everyone's congratulating you for it. What do you think people will say when you suddenly change your story? She was right, and we both knew it. The entire family, our church, the children's school, my workplace, everyone believed I'd voluntarily given my house to Jessica. Changing that narrative now would make me look unstable or cruel. But it got worse. Monday afternoon, my boss Marcus called me into his office. Atlas, I need to ask you some direct questions about your current mental state. My mental state? I received a call from someone claiming to be your sister. She expressed concern about your judgment and decision-making lately, said you've been acting erratically since making some major financial decisions for your family. I felt the walls closing in. Marcus, whatever Jessica told you, it wasn't Jessica. It was your mother. She said you've been under tremendous stress from family obligations and that she's worried about your reliability at work. She mentioned you might be taking medication for anxiety. I'm not taking any medication. Marcus looked uncomfortable. She seemed very concerned about your well-being. Said you've been making impulsive choices and might need professional help. Look, Atlas, we all go through difficult times. If you need to take some personal leave to get things sorted out, I don't need personal leave. I need my family to stop sabotaging my life. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That's exactly the kind of statement she warned me you might make. She said you've been having paranoid thoughts about family members working against you. I left work early and drove straight to the cottage. Jessica's minivan was in the driveway along with a utility company truck. I found a worker in my basement installing a new electrical panel. Who authorized this work? I demanded. Jessica appeared at the top of the basement stairs looking flustered. Atlas, thank goodness you're here. The electrician says the current panel can't handle all the new appliances Mom ordered for the kitchen renovation. Kitchen renovation? She didn't tell you we're updating everything to be more family-friendly. New stainless steel appliances, child-safe cabinet locks, a bigger island for homework time. The kids are so excited. The electrician climbed up from the basement. I'll need the homeowner's signature on the permit application. Your mother said you'd be by to handle the paperwork. This rewiring job will run about $12,000, but it'll bring everything up to code for a family with young children. I stared at the paperwork. My name was already filled in as the requesting party. My address, phone number, and forged signature were at the bottom. I didn't request this work, I said. The electrician looked confused. Ma'am, he said to Jessica, I was told the homeowner approved this job. We've already started pulling permits with the county. Jessica's face went white. Atlas, I don't understand what's happening. Mom said you wanted everything perfect for us. She showed me texts from you about the renovations. Texts from me. Jessica pulled out her phone and showed me a conversation thread. My name was at the top, but the messages weren't from my number. Atlas want the house ready for the kids. Approve any work needed. Atlas used my credit for deposits. Family comes first. Atlas, don't worry about cost. You and the kids deserve the best. Jessica, that's not my phone number. She stared at the screen, then at me. But it says your name. Mom forwarded me these messages and said you'd gotten a new phone for work. I showed her my phone. The numbers didn't match. Oh my God, Jessica whispered. Atlas, what is Mom doing? Before I could answer, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Riverside County Child Protective Services. Mr. Morrison. This is caseworker Linda Thompson with CPS. We received a report expressing concern about the living situation of 3 minor children at your property. We'd like to schedule a home visit to ensure the environment is appropriate for child welfare. A report from whom? I can't disclose the reporting party, but they expressed concern that you might be creating an unstable environment by refusing to allow your sister's children proper housing security. The caller suggested you've been pressuring your sister to move out despite having nowhere else to go. I looked at Jessica, who was staring at me in horror. Someone called CPS on me. The reporter claimed you were exhibiting erratic behavior and might pose a risk to your nephew and niece's emotional well-being. They said you've been threatening to remove the children from their new home without consideration for their psychological needs. After I hung up, Jessica sank down on my couch, her face in her hands. Atlas, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Mom was doing all this behind your back. I genuinely thought you'd offered us the cottage. I know you did, Jess. But what do we do now? The kids have already started school here. Emma made a friend in pre-K. Tommy's little league team is here. We don't have anywhere else to go. I sat down beside my sister, my mind racing. My mother had systematically destroyed my credibility, stolen my identity, and trapped my sister's family in the middle. But the worst part was realizing that this was all just the beginning. Jess, I said quietly, I think we need to figure out exactly how long Mom has been planning this. The dizzy spells started Tuesday morning. I'd been drinking coffee at the cottage while trying to discuss living arrangements with Jessica when suddenly the room began spinning. My vision blurred and I had to grip the kitchen counter to stay upright. Atlas, are you okay? Jessica rushed to my side. You look pale. I'm fine. I managed, but I wasn't. The disorientation lasted several minutes, leaving me confused and off balance. Over the next few days, the episodes got worse. Every time I tried to have a serious conversation with my mother about the cottage situation, I'd become lightheaded and struggle to focus. My thoughts felt foggy, my reactions slow. Thursday evening, I was cleaning out the coffee maker when I noticed something odd. White residue at the bottom of the carafe like powder that hadn't dissolved completely. I scraped some into a plastic bag and took it to my friend Danny, who worked as a pharmacy technician. Atlas, this is lorazepam. It's an anti-anxiety medication. Pretty strong stuff. Danny examined the powder under his desk lamp. How much of this were you taking? I wasn't taking anything. I found it in my coffee maker. Danny's expression grew serious. Someone's been drugging you, man. This amount could cause confusion, memory problems, drowsiness. How long has this been going on? About a week every time I drink coffee at the cottage. Atlas, you need to call the police. This is assault. But before I could process that revelation fully, my world exploded in new ways. Friday morning brought a call from a lawyer I'd never heard of. Mr. Morrison, this is attorney Kenneth Walsh representing Jessica Williams in her divorce proceedings. I understand you've made verbal commitments regarding family property that we need to discuss. What kind of commitments? Your sister's divorce settlement included provisions for stable housing for her children. My client was led to believe that family property would be available to fulfill this obligation. If you're now rescinding that promise, we may need to explore legal remedies to protect the children's interests. Nobody made any promises to Jessica? Sir, I have documentation suggesting otherwise. Your mother provided affidavits stating that you verbally committed to providing housing as part of the family's support system during the divorce. If you're attempting to revoke that commitment, we'll need to pursue this through the courts. I hung up and immediately called Jessica. Jess, did you hire a lawyer to sue me? What? No, I would never. Atlas, what's going on now? Some attorney named Kenneth Walsh just called claiming you're taking legal action against me over the cottage. Jessica's voice cracked. I never hired any lawyer. Mom said she was helping me with some divorce paperwork, but I never signed anything about suing you. That afternoon, my grandmother Helen called her voice cold, in a way I'd never heard before. Atlas, I'm very disappointed in you. Grandma, what's wrong? Your mother told me about your drug problem. She said you've been taking pills and making irrational decisions about family matters. She's worried sick about you. I don't have a drug problem. Sarah said she found prescription bottles in your truck. Anti-anxiety medications that are affecting your judgment. She said that's why you've been acting so strangely about the cottage situation. I felt the walls closing in. Grandma Mom is lying to you. Atlas, honey, your mother loves you. Why would she lie? She's just trying to help you get the treatment you need. She said if you don't get professional help soon, she might have to take steps to protect the family. What kind of steps? She mentioned something about guardianship proceedings if your condition deteriorates. Just until you're well again, sweetheart. After I hung up, I sat in my truck shaking. My mother was building a case to have me declared mentally incompetent. Saturday morning, I arrived at the cottage to find my ex-girlfriend, Marina, sitting in my kitchen with my mother. Atlas! Marina jumped up and hugged me tightly. Sarah called me. She's so worried about you. Why didn't you tell me you were having such a hard time? I stared at my mother over Marina's shoulder. What did you tell her? Sarah's expression was all fake concern. I told Marina that you've been struggling with anxiety and making some impulsive decisions lately. She was kind enough to come talk to you as a friend. Marina pulled back to look at me. Honey, your mom showed me photos of prescription bottles she found in your truck. She said you've been taking medication without a doctor's supervision and that it's making you paranoid about family members. Marina, I'm not taking any medication. Atlas denial is part of the problem. Marina's voice was gentle but firm. Your mother wouldn't make this up. She loves you. She's just trying to help. That's when I noticed the small recording device on the kitchen counter, partially hidden behind the coffee maker. How long has that been there? I asked, pointing to the recorder. Sarah followed my gaze. I've been documenting your episodes for your own protection, honey. When you get help, your doctor will need examples of how the medication has been affecting your behavior. Episodes? The angry outbursts, the paranoid accusations, the threats to kick your sister and her children out of their home. Atlas, you need professional help before this gets worse. Marina nodded sympathetically. Sarah played me some recordings. You did sound pretty agitated and confused. Maybe you should talk to someone just to be safe. Sunday morning, I woke up to find my entire extended family gathered in my living room for what my mother called an intervention. Uncle Robert, Aunt Karen, Cousin David, my grandmother Helen, and even Father Williams from church sat in a circle around my coffee table. My mother had prepared a presentation. Thank you all for coming to support Atlas during this difficult time, Sarah began. As you know, he's been struggling with prescription drug abuse that's affecting his judgment and family relationships. I stood in my own doorway watching my family nod sympathetically as my mother systematically destroyed my reputation. The medication has made him paranoid and hostile toward Jessica and her children. He's been threatening to make them homeless despite his earlier promise to provide housing. Father Williams spoke up. Atlas addiction is a disease, not a moral failing. We're here to help you find treatment. I'm not addicted to anything. Uncle Robert exchanged glances with my grandmother. Son, that's exactly what addicts say. Sarah showed us the evidence. We just want you to get help. My mother pulled out a folder thick with documents. I've researched treatment facilities. There's a lovely place in Colorado that specializes in prescription drug addiction. You could spend 30 days getting clean while Jessica and the children maintain stability here. I realized with horror that my mother had orchestrated this entire scenario to remove me from my own home while she consolidated control over my property. You want to send me to rehab? We want to save your life, Grandmother Helen said tearfully. Sarah said if you don't get help voluntarily, she might have to explore legal guardianship to protect you from yourself. That afternoon, after everyone left, I sat alone in my cottage trying to process the scope of my mother's manipulation. She'd drugged me, forged documents, stolen my identity, manipulated my family, and was now positioning herself as my legal guardian. But the final blow came Sunday evening when I found an envelope slipped under my door. Inside were power of attorney documents with my forged signature and a business card for an estate planning attorney. A handwritten note was attached. Monday 10 a.m. appointment to discuss property transfer for your protection. Mental health evaluation scheduled for Tuesday. Treatment facility intake Wednesday. Don't fight this, Atlas. I'm trying to save you from yourself. Love, Mom. I stared at the papers, my hands shaking with rage and fear. My mother had scheduled meetings to legally steal my life. But she'd made one critical mistake. She thought I was too drugged, too isolated, and too discredited to fight back. She was wrong. Monday morning, at 9:55, I sat in my truck across from Attorney Patricia Montgomery's office, watching my mother walk through the front entrance carrying a briefcase full of forged documents. What she didn't know was that I'd been recording everything for the past week. After discovering the lorazepam in my coffee, I'd installed hidden security cameras throughout the cottage. Motion-activated high-definition legally admissible evidence of every conversation, every forged signature, every moment of manipulation. At 10:15, I walked into the attorney's office. Mr. Morrison. Patricia Montgomery stood up from behind her desk. Your mother was just explaining your situation. She's very concerned about your recent behavior. I'm sure she is. I sat down across from my mother, who looked surprised but not alarmed by my appearance. Atlas, honey, you look much better today. Did you take the medication I left for you? You mean the lorazepam you've been putting in my coffee? Sarah's expression didn't change. Sweetheart, you're having paranoid thoughts again. That's exactly why we need to establish protective measures. I pulled out my phone and played a video clip. My mother's voice filled the room. The medication has made him paranoid and hostile toward Jessica and her children. Patricia Montgomery's eyebrows rose. Mr. Morrison, do you have more recordings? Hours of them, including my mother admitting to drugging me, forging my signatures, and stealing my identity. I looked directly at Sarah. Did you really think I wouldn't fight back? My mother's composure cracked slightly. Atlas, you're sick. You need help. The only sick person here is you, Mom. I turned to Patricia Montgomery. My mother has been systematically stealing my identity, manipulating my family, and positioning herself to gain control of my property through fraudulent guardianship proceedings. I spent the next hour showing Patricia Montgomery the evidence: security footage of my mother forging documents, recordings of her admitting to drugging me, screenshots of her selling my truck without permission, documentation of the credit card fraud and identity theft. Patricia's expression grew increasingly grave. Mr. Morrison, this appears to be a clear case of family financial abuse and identity theft. Have you contacted law enforcement? That's my next stop. Sarah stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Atlas is having a psychotic break. He's creating elaborate fantasies to avoid taking responsibility for his mental health problems. Ma'am, Patricia said coldly, I've reviewed the evidence. These recordings clearly show you admitting to activities that constitute multiple felonies. I strongly recommend you seek legal counsel immediately. After we left the attorney's office, I followed my mother to a Bank of America branch. Through the window, I watched her attempt to access an account using my Social Security number. When the transaction was declined, she became agitated and demanded to speak with a manager. That's when I called Detective Ramirez, whom Patricia Montgomery had recommended. Detective, I'm watching my mother attempt bank fraud in real time. How quickly can someone get here? But when I got home that evening, I discovered my mother's next move was even more desperate than I'd anticipated. Jessica called me crying. Atlas' mom's gone. She cleaned out her apartment and left town. But that's not the worst part. What happened? She emptied the kids' college savings accounts. $23,000 that Brad and I saved for Tommy, Emma, and Luke's education. It's all gone. I drove to Jessica's hotel immediately. She'd checked into a Comfort Inn with the children after discovering our mother had abandoned them. I'm so sorry, Atlas. I had no idea what she was doing to you. Jessica's eyes were red from crying. When Detective Ramirez showed me the recordings, I felt sick. Our own mother was destroying our family. Jess, this isn't your fault. Yes, it is. I should have questioned why you would give us such an expensive house. I should have insisted on talking to you directly instead of just believing Mom's explanations. I was so desperate for stability after the divorce that I didn't think clearly. Tommy tugged on my sleeve. Uncle Atlas, why did Grandma Sarah take our money? Mom said we can't go to college now. Looking at my 6-year-old nephew's confused face, I realized my mother's crimes extended far beyond what she'd done to me. She'd stolen from children. Tommy, buddy, we're going to figure this out, okay? Family takes care of family. The next morning, Detective Ramirez called with an update. Mr. Morrison, your mother was arrested last night in Phoenix, Arizona, attempting to open bank accounts using false identification. She had documents for at least 5 different identities in her possession, including yours. 5 different identities. This appears to be much larger than family identity theft. We've connected her to similar scams in 3 other states. Your evidence helped us piece together a pattern of financial abuse targeting elderly family members and vulnerable relatives. I sat down heavily. How many people has she victimized? We're still investigating, but preliminary evidence suggests at least 12 victims over the past 8 years. Your mother appears to have been running sophisticated identity theft and financial manipulation schemes on extended family members across multiple states. That afternoon, I received a call from my cousin David in Oklahoma. Atlas, the police told me you helped expose Aunt Sarah's crimes. I need to thank you. She stole $47,000 from my inheritance when Grandpa Joe died. I always suspected, but I could never prove it. David, I had no idea. She convinced my mom that I was on drugs and couldn't handle an inheritance. Sound familiar? Then she offered to manage the money until I got clean. I never saw a penny of it. Over the next week, I learned the devastating scope of my mother's operation. She'd stolen from my grandmother Helen's retirement accounts. She'd manipulated my Uncle Robert out of his veterans benefits. She'd even convinced my elderly great-aunt Dorothy to sign over her house before putting her in a nursing home. But the most heartbreaking discovery came when Detective Ramirez showed me my mother's planning documents. Mr. Morrison, your mother kept detailed records of her targets and methods. According to her notes, she'd been planning the cottage scheme for over 2 years. The detective showed me a notebook filled with my mother's handwriting. Page after page of observations about my work schedule, my income, my relationship with Jessica, even my dating history with Marina. Target Atlas Morrison. Assets cottage fund savings approximately $60,000. Vulnerabilities guilt over sister's divorce history of family loyalty, trusting nature. She'd studied me like a predator studies prey. Your mother also had detailed plans for what to do after gaining control of your property. She intended to sell the cottage and use the proceeds to fund similar schemes in other states. I stared at the notebook. She was never planning to let Jessica keep the house. According to these notes, your sister's family was just a tool to manipulate you. Once your mother gained legal control over your assets, she planned to evict them and disappear with the money. That evening, I sat with Jessica and her children in my cottage living room. For the first time in weeks, it felt like my home again. Atlas, Jessica said quietly, I know saying sorry isn't enough, but I need you to know how grateful I am. You saved us from her too. We saved each other, Jess. What happens now, I mean, the kids are settled in school here, but this is your house. I looked at Tommy and Emma playing with blocks on my floor at baby Luke, sleeping peacefully in his carrier. These children had been through enough trauma. We figure it out together, I said. That's what real family does. But I was already forming a plan that would not only protect my family, but help other victims of people like my mother. A plan that would turn my mother's crimes into something positive. The next morning, I called Patricia Montgomery. Patricia, I want to establish a family protection trust. Something that can help prevent this from happening to other people. What did you have in mind? I just found out something that changes everything. The cottage sits on mineral rights that my mother never knew about. Rights that are worth significantly more than the house itself. It was time to turn my family's nightmare into other families' salvation. The call from Detective Ramirez came on a Thursday morning while I was having breakfast with Jessica and the kids at the cottage. Mr. Morrison, your mother was arrested in Tucson yesterday, trying to purchase property using forged financial documents. She had assumed identities for 3 different people, including a deceased elderly man from Oregon. I put the phone on speaker so Jessica could hear. She's been operating under multiple aliases for years. Sarah Morrison, Sandra Matthews, Samantha Miller. We've connected her to property fraud in Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, and New Mexico. Your evidence broke open a multi-state investigation. Jessica's face went pale. How many people did she hurt? At least 27 confirmed victims so far, ma'am. Mostly elderly relatives or family members going through difficult transitions. Your mother targeted people when they were most vulnerable. After the detective hung up, Jessica stared out the kitchen window for a long time. Atlas, I keep thinking about all those Sunday visits here. She seemed so caring, so concerned about our future. I thought she was being a loving grandmother and mother. She's a master manipulator, Jess. She fooled all of us. But how long has she been like this? I keep wondering if anything about our childhood was real. That question haunted both of us over the next few days as more details emerged. Detective Ramirez discovered that our mother had been forging documents and manipulating family finances for over a decade. Your father's life insurance payout when you were teenagers? Your mother collected $60,000 that was supposed to be split between college funds for you and your sister. She told the insurance company she was managing educational trusts for both of you. I felt sick. We never saw any of that money. Your mother used it to purchase a rental property in Colorado under an assumed name. She's been collecting rent on that property for 12 years while telling your family she was struggling financially. The revelations kept coming. Our mother had stolen inheritance money from 5 different deceased relatives. She'd manipulated elderly family members into signing over property deeds. She'd even stolen from children's savings accounts belonging to cousins we rarely saw. But the most devastating discovery came when my grandmother Helen was admitted to the hospital for confusion and memory problems. Mr. Morrison, Dr. Jennifer Park explained during a family meeting, your grandmother is showing signs of early-stage dementia. However, her financial records suggest someone has been systematically draining her accounts for months. Jessica and I exchanged glances. The pattern suggests someone with intimate knowledge of her banking habits and medical appointments. Withdrawals were consistently made when your grandmother would have been at doctor's visits or church activities. I showed Dr. Park the recordings I had of my mother discussing my grandmother's finances. Atlas, this is elder abuse. Your mother was exploiting your grandmother's cognitive decline to steal her retirement savings. We discovered that our mother had stolen over $80,000 from grandmother Helen's retirement account, leaving her unable to afford proper care for her dementia. But amid all the devastation, something unexpected happened. Other family members began reaching out with their own stories. My Uncle Robert called first. Atlas, when I heard about Sarah's arrest, I finally understood what happened to my veterans' disability benefits 5 years ago. What do you mean, Uncle Robert? Sarah convinced me that there were problems with my paperwork and offered to help straighten things out with the VA. I gave her my account information and power of attorney. Next thing I knew, my benefits were being direct deposited into an account I couldn't access. Why didn't you report it? She told me the government was investigating me for fraud and that she was protecting me from prosecution. I was terrified of losing my benefits entirely, so I kept quiet. Cousin David called that same day. Atlas, I need to tell you about Grandpa Joe's farm. The farm in Oklahoma. Sarah convinced my mom that I was too irresponsible to inherit it. She said I had gambling debts and would lose the property immediately. My mom signed the farm over to Sarah for safekeeping until I proved I could handle responsibility. David, you've never gambled in your life. I know. But Sarah had forged documents showing casino debts and even fake police reports about my supposed gambling addiction. My mom believed it all. The scope of our mother's crimes was staggering. She'd been running elaborate long-term cons on her own family for years, always positioning herself as the helpful family member while systematically stealing from everyone who trusted her. But the case that broke my heart the most involved my great-aunt Dorothy, our grandmother's sister. Patricia Montgomery called me with the details. Mr. Morrison, your great-aunt Dorothy is 87 years old and suffering from mild dementia. 3 years ago, your mother convinced her to sign over her house for estate planning purposes. Where is Aunt Dorothy now? A county nursing home. Your mother placed her there claiming the family couldn't afford private care despite having stolen the equity from her house. I drove to visit Aunt Dorothy that weekend. She was sitting alone in the common room staring out a window. Aunt Dorothy, I'm Atlas, Helen's grandson. Her eyes lit up. Atlas. Oh, sweetheart, I've been wondering about you. Sarah said you were sick and couldn't visit. Aunt Dorothy, what do you remember about your house? My beautiful little house, Sarah said she was taking care of it for me while I got better. She promised I could go home when the doctor said I was ready. Tears filled her eyes. But I never seemed to get better enough to go home. Sitting with my great-aunt, I realized that my mother's crimes went beyond theft. She'd stolen people's homes, their dignity, their trust in family. She'd left a trail of broken hearts and shattered faith across multiple states. But she'd made one crucial error. She'd targeted someone who fought back. The next morning, I received a call that changed everything. Mr. Morrison, this is County Assessor Linda Webb. I'm calling about the Mineral Rights Survey for your property on Lake Morrison. Mineral Rights Survey. The geological survey your mother requested last year. We just received the final report on the oil and natural gas deposits under your cottage property. I sat down slowly. Oil deposits. Mr. Morrison, your property sits on one of the richest natural gas deposits we've discovered in this county in 20 years. The mineral rights alone are valued at approximately $450,000. My mother had researched every aspect of the cottage property before manipulating me into buying it. She'd known about the mineral rights the entire time. Ma'am, who owns those mineral rights? According to the deed, the mineral rights transfer with the property. You own them, Mr. Morrison. That afternoon, I called Patricia Montgomery with a new plan. Patricia, I want to establish a foundation to help other families victimized by financial abuse. And I think I know how to fund it. The pieces were finally falling into place. My mother's greed and manipulation were about to become the foundation for helping her victims rebuild their lives. Justice was about to be served with interest. The courtroom was packed on the day my mother was sentenced. Jessica sat beside me holding baby Luke, while Tommy and Emma stayed with our grandmother Helen, who was receiving proper care in a memory facility I could now afford. Judge Margaret Thompson reviewed the charges methodically. Sarah Morrison, you have been found guilty of 23 counts of identity theft, 14 counts of elder abuse, 8 counts of forgery, and 6 counts of financial exploitation of vulnerable adults across 4 states. My mother sat at the defendant's table looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. For the first time in my life, she had no control over the narrative. The scope of your crimes against your own family members and elderly relatives demonstrates a calculated disregard for the welfare of vulnerable people who trusted you. This court sentences you to 7 years in federal prison with mandatory restitution of $437,000 to your victims. After the sentencing, Detective Ramirez approached Jessica and me outside the courthouse. Mr. Morrison, I wanted you to know that your evidence helped us recover assets worth over $200,000. Your mother had been hiding money in accounts across multiple states. What happens to those assets? They'll be distributed to the victims through the restitution process. Your grandmother, your great-aunt Dorothy, your Uncle Robert, cousin David, and 12 other family members will receive compensation. But the real transformation had started months earlier when I established the Morrison Family Protection Trust using the mineral rights revenue from my cottage property. Patricia Montgomery had helped me structure the foundation to provide multiple types of assistance for families victimized by financial abuse. Atlas, the natural gas rights, generate approximately $15,000 monthly in royalties. That creates a sustainable funding source for victim assistance. The foundation's first project was bringing Aunt Dorothy home from the county nursing home. We purchased a small house near my cottage and arranged for proper home health care. At 87, she was finally safe and comfortable again. I never thought I'd see my own garden again, she told me through tears as we planted tomatoes behind her new house. Sarah convinced me I'd never be well enough to live independently. Uncle Robert was our second success story. The foundation helped him establish a proper bank account and arranged for direct deposit of his veterans' benefits. For the first time in 5 years, he had control over his own finances. Atlas, I can't believe I'm saying this, but your mother's arrest was the best thing that happened to our family in years, he said during a Sunday dinner at the cottage. Finally, we can trust each other again. Cousin David used his recovered inheritance money to finally purchase the small ranch he'd dreamed of owning since childhood. He invited the entire family to his property warming party. I kept wondering why I never felt successful enough to deserve Grandpa Joe's farm, he admitted. Now I realize Aunt Sarah was sabotaging my confidence for years to justify keeping my inheritance. But the most meaningful transformation happened with my grandmother Helen. With proper medication and care for her dementia, along with the security of her recovered retirement funds, she was able to live in a beautiful assisted living facility with dignity. Atlas, sweetheart, I'm so sorry I believed Sarah's lies about you, she said during one of my weekly visits. I should have known my grandson would never hurt his family. Grandma, she manipulated all of us. You have nothing to apologize for. The foundation grew beyond our family's needs. Patricia Montgomery helped me establish partnerships with elder abuse prevention organizations across 3 states. We provided legal assistance, emergency housing, and financial recovery services for families dealing with similar situations. Our first major case involved helping a family in Colorado whose adult son had stolen their retirement savings. Using our model, we helped them recover their assets and establish protective legal measures. Mr. Morrison, said Maria Santos, the mother we'd assisted, your foundation gave us hope when we thought our own child had destroyed our future. Now we have our dignity back. But the greatest healing happened with Jessica and her children. After months of counseling and honest conversations, we developed a living arrangement that worked for everyone. Atlas, I want to contribute to the mortgage payments, Jessica insisted. This is your house, but you're sharing it with us. That deserves recognition. Jess, take care of your kids. That's contribution enough. No, I need to do this for my self-respect and to teach Tommy and Emma about responsibility. Jessica returned to teaching at Maplewood Elementary, where the principal had held her position hoping she'd return. With stable housing and childcare support from me, she was able to rebuild her career and confidence. Tommy and Emma thrived in their new school environment. Watching them play in the backyard I dreamed of enjoying alone, I realized that some dreams improve when they're shared with people you love. Uncle Atlas, Tommy said one evening as we fished off the cottage dock, are you sad that Grandma Sarah went away? No, buddy. I'm sad that she chose to hurt people instead of loving them, but I'm happy that our family is safe now. She was mean to you, wasn't she? Yes, she was. But sometimes when people hurt us, it teaches us how to protect and love other people better. Emma, now 5 and in kindergarten, had her own perspective. Daddy says Uncle Atlas is a superhero because he saved our family from the bad guys. I'm not a superhero, sweetheart. I just learned how to stand up for myself and the people I love. 6 months after my mother's sentencing, I received an unexpected letter from her in prison. Atlas, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to tell you something. The prison counselor has been helping me understand what I did to our family. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm proud of how you protected everyone. You're a better person than I ever was. Take care of Jessica and the children. They're lucky to have you. I showed the letter to Jessica, who read it with tears in her eyes. Do you think she means it? She asked. I think she's finally telling the truth about something. But it doesn't change what she did or the consequences. Will you write back? Maybe someday when I'm ready. The Foundation's first annual fundraising dinner was held at the Cottage on a perfect October evening. Uncle Robert, Cousin David, Aunt Dorothy, and dozens of families we'd helped gathered to celebrate survival and healing. Patricia Montgomery spoke to the group about the epidemic of family financial abuse and how our foundation was creating a model for victim assistance nationwide. What makes the Morrison Foundation unique is its understanding that family financial abuse isn't just about money. It's about rebuilding trust, dignity, and the belief that families can be sources of protection rather than exploitation. As I looked around my living room filled with people who had survived their own family betrayals and found strength to rebuild, I realized that my mother's greatest crime had become the foundation for something beautiful. Jessica found me on the cottage porch after everyone had gone home. Atlas, do you ever regret buying this place? I looked out at Lake Morrison, its surface reflecting the stars. Never. This cottage was supposed to be my dream home. It turned out to be something better. What's that? Home for people I love who needed a safe place to heal? A year later, the foundation had helped 47 families recover from financial abuse and had established partnerships with law enforcement agencies in 8 states. The cottage had become a symbol of protection and renewal. Tommy, now 7, had learned to swim in Lake Morrison and caught his first fish off our dock. Emma, 6, had decided she wanted to be a helper lawyer, like Miss Patricia when she grew up. Baby Luke, now walking and talking, called me Papa Atlas and knew that the cottage was his safe place. Jessica had been promoted to lead teacher and was pursuing a master's degree in education. Brad had found stable employment and maintained a healthy co-parenting relationship with Jessica. The family was whole in ways that had nothing to do with blood relations and everything to do with choice and commitment. During a quiet Sunday evening, as Jessica put the children to bed, and I sat on my porch listening to the lake, I reflected on the life lesson that emerged from our family's crisis. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us become the source of our greatest danger. But when we find the courage to stand up for ourselves and the people we love, we discover that real family isn't about who shares your DNA. Real family is about who shares your commitment to protecting and empowering each other. My mother taught me that blood relationships don't guarantee loyalty or love. But Jessica, her children, and all the families we'd helped through the foundation taught me that chosen family built on respect and truth creates bonds stronger than any manipulation can break. The cottage on Lake Morrison had become exactly what I dreamed it would be: a place where people I love feel safe, supported, and free to become their best selves. It just took a different shape than I'd originally imagined. And that turned out to be perfect. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish when it protects the people you love from those who would exploit them. Sometimes the greatest act of family loyalty is refusing to enable family dysfunction. True strength comes from choosing justice, tempered with mercy and real love, means creating boundaries that keep everyone safe. Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace in your family and protecting yourself or others from manipulation? What gave you the strength to stand up for what was right? Share your story in the comments below, because your experience might help someone else find their courage. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button to show your support for families who've survived financial abuse. Subscribe to hear more stories about people who found strength in difficult situations, and share this video with anyone who might need to know they're not alone in dealing with family manipulation. Thank you for listening to this journey of betrayal, survival, and healing. Remember that you have the power to protect yourself and the people you love, and that standing up to manipulation isn't just about saving yourself, it's about saving everyone trapped in the cycle. Until next time, stay strong, trust your instincts, and never be afraid to fight for the truth.